Yeah, get Tony Soprano on the phone. Oh my goodness. I didn't think I'd ever remember this video existed. It's quite a sight to behold. But by the way, this is going to be a short one. You know, I'm still not feeling well. I feel okay. It's just that my voice is all jacked up and short of breath kind of thing. Every time I get sick, like for real, because I have asthma, it just affects me a little different. But in any case, this whole thing about vaccine amnesty. We gotta have amnesty, and people were very confused, and there's the fog of war. I mean, it was a very difficult time to be a pastor, and all of this, and then we did that one video. You shouldn't Monday morning quarterback this thing. We shouldn't Monday morning quarterback it. No, of course it was hard. It was very difficult. I mean, what do you expect? You expect your pastor to be perfect? And it's just every time you see one of these things, right, it's doing this kind of false equivalency thing, right? Like, see, you were wrong about some things, I was wrong about some things, and everybody immediately noticed, of course, that, even if we were wrong about some things, which I dispute, because we really weren't wrong, excuse me, about anything of any substance, right? Because, the thing is, like, a lot of the people that were on my side of the COVID story, we weren't really making a whole lot of assertions. We weren't really saying, oh yeah, it was definitely that lab in China. It definitely was that, or it definitely was developed at the CDC, or we weren't really saying any of that kind of stuff. We were saying, there certainly seems to be some evidence here, but at the end of the day, we don't really know. So, like, we shouldn't turn our lives upside down for it, right? Like that's what a lot, and it turns out that a lot of the things that we were kind of postulating as a possibility were actually true, right? But even if they weren't true, it's not like we were saying we weren't doing definite things. We were saying, look, if you want to get this experimental chemical jabbed into your skin and your children's skin and stuff like that, look, I'm not you, right? I can't tell you what to do. I'm not doing it because I don't think it makes any sense to do it. But, you do you. We were the ones that were saying, everyone should do what they think they should do because that's how we've always done, sicknesses or flus or illnesses. If you're too scared to get the flu, and you hear somebody at church has the flu, that's on you. If you decide that you don't want to go to church because you're scared to get the flu at church, that's on you. Hardly anybody was coming out and saying you're not allowed to skip church, right? Everyone was saying, you do you. You do what you got to do. That's what we were saying, right? And that's not really if you notice, that's not a very aggressive position, right? Like hardly anybody was saying, you're going to be church disciplined and not able to attend the fellowship if you get the vaccine. If you get it, you can't come to church. No, hardly anybody was saying that. I'm sure there's a few people that said that, but very few. I mean, so few that it's not even worth mentioning. And so I dispute that we were making a ton of mistakes back then, but even if we were, our mistakes were very mild. Like they're not even really worth talking about. But everyone's noticing that you're trying to say, well, there's mistakes on both sides, right? Let's just let bygones be bygones, right? And that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. But even more than that, this whole idea of the fog of war, the fog of war, people made mistakes, and it's like, well, we actually do have to look into that fog of war stuff because if you're the kind of, like, if you had the role of a captain, right, or we're talking about mentioned Tony Soprano. If you're a capo, right, you're a capo in the church. And as it turns, and everything's been good, right? Like things have been pretty relaxed, there hasn't been any battles, any wars, anything like that. And you've been a fine capo, you've been doing your job, allegedly. Because I think a lot of times a lot of these evangelical leaders that we discovered were absolutely worthless. They've been worthless for years, but it was kind of easy to cover it up under the surface, right? Because there wasn't a major skirmish, right? There's probably a lot of failures from a lot of these losers that did the government's bidding during COVID. A lot of these fake false brethren, these false shepherds, these shepherds that they were cashing in their paycheck, but they didn't care about the sheep, right? The minute the sheep were threatened, they left their staff and hightailed it out of there, like those guys, right? They've been failing for years, but it was easier to cover up the failure when there wasn't a big skirmish going on, right? But now we've got this sample size, right? So now we've got this large sample. What did they do when the battle started, right? What did they do? And for us to just say, fog of war, you can't look into that stuff. That is the most insane position I could possibly imagine when you're considering who your elders are going to be going into the future. This is 2022. Things are about to get a lot more real even than they were in 2020. The propaganda isn't getting better, it's getting worse. The totalitarian edicts aren't getting better, they're getting worse. The depravity isn't getting better, it's getting worse. And so we need to look at that fog of war and say, okay, it was a confusing time. Let's just grant you all of that. Let's grant it to you. Because here's the thing, guys. This is the other thing that a lot of us saw through all of that fog that you're clear. Oh, we didn't know. There was a conflicting information. We didn't know. But there were a lot of people who somehow did know. So, but let's grant you your position, right? It was a confusing time. You didn't know what was what. You didn't know what way was up. Whatever. Let's just grant it to you, okay? When that time came and you were confused, you were scared, you were nervous, you wanted to be so careful, it was the fog of war, will grant everything. What did you default to? What did you do? When the fog of war came, what did you do? Did you abandon your post Did you abandon your post? Or did you stay there and do the right thing? Do what you were supposed to do. Do what you were trained to do. Did you do what God told you to do at the time? When you were confused, right? Where did your help come from? Did you crack open that Bible and say, it says here that we need to lay hands on the sick. It says here that our help comes from the Lord. It says here that we're supposed to hand out communion. It says here that we're supposed to greet each other. It says here that we're supposed to do this and that. And did you default to your training? Because we need to figure that out, right? Because the fog of war, okay, that's a real thing. I'm going to grant it to you. Because again, I don't have to grant that to you because a lot of us saw the same information that you saw and we saw right through it. But you didn't. Okay. I can give you a little bit of mercy there, right? When you were confused, you didn't know what way was up. What did you default to? What was your action? What did you actually do? Because what we know from the Bible is that your faith is demonstrated by your works. This is not, some people when they're a young Christian, that James passage is confusing. It's like I always heard that you were justified by faith apart from works. And here's James saying, and it's really not confusing though when you really think about it, because it's easy to say that you trust something or someone, right? It's very easy to say it, right? I trust airplanes, right? I trust airplanes. I believe that they're designed well. There's a very low chance of getting into an airplane crash. I trust that. I trust the engineering. I trust that. It's a different thing to actually get on the plane. Because if somebody told you, I trust airplanes, I trust pilots, and then you're like, all right, cool, let's go to Tahiti. Let's go. We'll have a good time. And then they say, I don't know about that. I'm not going to get on that plane. Like, they don't actually trust it, right? Your faith is demonstrated by your works. And so when the time came and the fog of war, kind of settled over the battlefield, what did you do? We need to figure that out because the reality is that so many of our leaders were quick to default to where their help really comes from. Guys like John Lehman, his help really comes from the state. He can say all day long. He can write the most eloquent prose. He can write the most profound things about ecclesiology. He can be so winsome, and he can say a lot of true things about theology. But at the end of the day, when people's lives were on the line, when it was an emergency situation, he defaulted to his training, and his training told him that whatever daddy government says, that's what we do at church. We do what the government says. He even defended himself in this way. Do you remember at the time, this snake, he said, well, I'm not going to have indoor church, but I am going to go to the Black Lives Matter rally. Yeah, because the government said I could do that, but I couldn't do the indoor church thing or whatever. And it's just, he was not embarrassed by that. He was open about it. Yeah, that's his position. Whatever the government says. If the government says I can have church a certain way, then I'm going to do it. If the government says I can't have church a certain way, I'm going to do it. And what the scripture says, who cares? Because he defaulted to his training. His training told him to listen to the state. That's where his help comes from. And there's a lot of pastors like that. I'm not just picking on Jonathan Leeman. He just was on my mind right now because I'm thinking about his article. And I'm going to end up doing a little bit more content on that article for sure. But this whole idea of amnesty, right? Amnesty. No, there will be no amnesty because when you're having amnesty, it's as if it didn't happen, as if we don't have to talk about this, right? But no, we do have to. There can be forgiveness. See, this is the thing. This is the difference, right? Because what's being proposed to us is let's not talk about it. Let's not think about it. Let's not review it. Let's not consider what this means for the future. Let's just forget it ever happened. Don't even ever mention it again, as if we're on a blank, clean slate. We can't do that. We can't do that. Because at the end of the day, you're still in your position as shepherd, and you know what? There's going to be another wolf attack one day. There's going to be another wolf attack one day. And so we need to understand, is this guy, is he really a hireling the way it looks like he is? Or was that just a bad move and he's learned his lesson? Because that's the other thing. There's some pastors that they threw their staff down and ran away from the wolf. And then they're running and they're halfway to safety. And they said, oh, no, what have I done? What have I done? And they picked up a few rocks and ran back to the wolves and beat them back and picked up their staff again and said, guys, I'm sorry. I'll never let that happen again. And see, there's forgiving. Christians are forgiving, right? Christians are forgiving by definition. And so those guys, we welcome them back in. They've told us, man, I learned my lesson. This is what I did wrong. This is why I know this won't ever happen again. Guys, I repent. I ask for your forgiveness. And you know what we've done? We've forgiven. But these guys are such... They're like, they want us to just pretend it never happened. And we can't do it. We can't do it because we're still in the game. We know there's going to be another wolf attack. In fact, they're already attacking. And you guys are just like, where do you get the cojones to even ask for that? Where do you get the cojones? That's what I want to know. It's... a lot of people are still kind of willing to be under your care. Like 9 Marks. I said this in a video that I haven't posted yet, but 9 Marks is a zombie ministry, right? Like they don't realize that they've been dealt a death blow, right? They don't. But people are still kind of getting some material. They're still at the point where they're like, yeah, there's some good material on 9 Marks, and I agree there is. In fact, I did a little research about this idea of a Christian family on 9 Marks, and of course 9 Marks realizes there's a Christian family out there. This is just a new play for John Lehman to pretend like there's no such thing as a Christian family, whatever. Like he's just running plays here. It doesn't have to be consistent. When you're just lying, when you're lying all the time, it's hard to keep things consistent. So you can't really blame him. But anyway, there's some good materials on there. So there's some decent stuff, but over time people are going to realize how worthless it really is, because at the end of the day, it's not going to address the reality that we find ourselves in here in 2022. It's going to be stuff that, yeah, there's some application that we can make, but there's going to be other content coming out. There's going to be other materials coming out. There's going to be other people that come out and appear as leaders that are going to have a much better way of connecting theology and beautiful, perfect ideas from the Lord, and actually making them touch reality as it is, right? That's the key right there. Because ideologies are nice, right? It's nice to have like a perfect, clean, nice and neat ideology. But dealing in reality, it's not nice and neat. It's not like that. So you need to have a person that knows how to connect the perfect thoughts, the perfect words of God to a reality that is not perfect, that is messy a lot of the time. That's the key. And guys like 9 Marks and Jonathan Lehman and Gospel Coalition, that's where they are worthless. And a lot of times it's because they're false brethren. A lot of times it's because they're hireling pastors. They're fake. They don't care about the sheep. But then the people who like these guys, a lot of them are real brethren and real shepherds, but they're influenced by these guys, and so they end up saying a lot of really dumb stuff. And you see, that's the thing, guys. Like this is why we have to Monday morning court. There will be no amnesty, 100% no amnesty. We can forgive, of course, but we cannot have this thing where we just pretend like it didn't happen and wait for the next wolf attack to show up. We're not doing that. And you guys, it's a zombie company, or not a zombie company, a zombie ministry. And in today's No Quarter November, one of the things that Doug says, it's amazing, is he says that gaslighting is not a forever thing. It's only a transitional thing, right? Because right now, people still revere guys like Jonathan Lehman as an evangelical leader. And it's kind of like gaslighting, because we saw what you did. We saw how you threw your staff down and ran for the hills. We saw how you defaulted to your true God, the state. We saw how you deferred to him when the state came in and said, no, Jesus doesn't tell you what to do in church. We tell you what to do. You said, yes, massa, okay. We saw that, right? So the people that are pretending you're still an evangelical leader, they're just pretending. It's just all pretense. But that's temporary. That's temporary. You can't you can't deny reality forever. And so this whole amnesty thing, it's not going to work. But even if people do have this kind of fake amnesty, they're never going to forget what you did. They're never going to forget what you did. And then the next time you do it, it's going to be too much. It's going to be too much. And everyone's going to start to, all of a sudden, everyone's going to realize the emperor is naked. And that's how this is going to go down. So no, there will be no amnesty. There will be no amnesty. There will be forgiveness for those of you who ask for it, and you will still be able to be a brother, of course. You will still be able to be a shepherd if you demonstrate the ability to actually change, right? I mean, you guys are supposed to be our examples of asking for forgiveness and repenting and confession. And if your version of confession is amnesty, please, it was the fog of war. We're all going to remember that. We're all going to remember that. In any case, that's my video for today, and I'm going to go calm down. God bless.